E. Jean Carroll is a complete nut job. Her lawsuit was funded by Democrat megadonor Reid Hoffman, and in order for her to circumvent the statute of limitations in New York for sexual assault, they got a law passed that opened up the window for sexual assault victims to bring lawsuits for 1 year. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Unwoke Thoughts. Yes, today we are talking about E. Jean Carroll and her lawsuits and kind of the peripheral things that you might not know about what happened in New York against Donald Trump with this crazy lady, E. Jean Carroll, this absolute lunatic. I mean, if you watch any of her videos, you know that there's a couple screws loose in this woman's head. Now, following E. Jean Carroll's defamation win against Donald Trump, which awarded her $83.3 million, she went on MSNBC to speak about how she was going to spend some of that money. Watch.
You've talked about using some of Trump's money that you're about to get to help shore up women's rights. Do you know what that might be, what that might look like?
Yes, Rachel. Yes.
Tell me.
I had such great ideas for all the good I'm going to do with this money. First thing, Rachel, you and I are going to go shopping. We're going to get completely new wardrobes, new shoes, motorcycle for Crowley, new fishing rod for Robbie. Rachel, what do you want? Penthouse? It's yours,
Nothing.
Rachel. Penthouse and France? You want France? You want to go fishing in France? No? Oh, all right, okay.
That's a joke.
All right, okay.
That's a joke.
Although if me fishing in France could do something for women's rights, I would take the hit. You know, I would obviously take one for the team. All right, let me as if you need persuasion in that regard.
Okay, so that was absolutely uncomfortable. E. Jean Carroll is on MSNBC talking to Rachel Maddow with her lawyers on either side of her, and she seems completely elated about this win, this defamation win against Donald Trump, and she is talking about how she is going to spend that $83.3 million, and she's talking about how she's going to buy fishing rods, and she wants to send Rachel Maddow to France and all these other things, and her lawyers, look at their faces. They're just like, oh gosh, here we go again. And one of her lawyers says, it's a joke. It's a joke. I promise it's a joke. I might think it's a joke, but if you know anything about E. Jean Carroll, or if you've watched any of the other clips of E. Jean Carroll, this is either real E. Jean Carroll or she's joking all the time. But it's no secret that E. Jean Carroll is a complete nutcase. She has sued Donald Trump 3 times. The first time was for defamation after he denied the sexual assault allegations. The second time was for sexual assault. And the third time was for defamation again. But this is what she had to say about Donald Trump when she saw him in the courthouse after she won her second lawsuit against Donald Trump. Watch.
And there he was, and he was nothing. He was just no power. He was zero. I was flabbergasted. And from then we just sailed through. She brought me in. She said, say your name. And I just looked at Robbie, saw he was nothing, and it came out from there.
Did you make eye contact with him?
Many times.
And what was that like?
He's an emperor without clothes. It's like looking at nothing. It was like nothing.
Were you surprised by that? Because the environment, no, I can imagine, but the environment, not just from what you went through, but also the environment in that courtroom was a very different, very volatile, very heated environment in terms of both Donald Trump's attorney and Donald Trump. For it to end up like that, were you surprised?
Yes, I had been prepared for the worst force, on the earth today, the most powerful, the most effective, the most money, the richest, the most, and there he is, he's nothing.
Why?
It's just the people around him who give him the power.
Once again, how uncomfortable is this? This is like the epitome of cringe. Now, does this seem like a sexual assault survivor to you? Or does it look like somebody who is playing a role? She's using all of this dramatic language to describe seeing Donald Trump in the courthouse after she won this second lawsuit against him. And then she talks about Donald Trump being like an emperor with no clothes. She was expecting all this might and power from a billionaire, but he was just nothing. Now, I wonder why he was like this. I wonder why he couldn't fight back. Maybe it was because a law was changed specifically to allow E. Jean Carroll to bring this lawsuit in the first place. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later on in this video, but that is exactly what happened. And when you have laws that are changed in special circumstances to allow certain individuals like E. Jean Carroll to bring lawsuits against certain individuals like Donald Trump, there's really not much you can do about it, and that's not how the justice system is supposed to work. But not only is she uncomfortable and incredibly cringe, she's also not credible whatsoever. This is not the first time that E. Jean Carroll has made accusations against men for, shall we say, R-wording her. I can't say the whole word because YouTube doesn't like that word, but she's also made accusations against a babysitter's boyfriend, a dentist, a camp counselor, an unnamed college date, an unnamed boss, and CBS chief executive Les Moonves. And this is per the National Pulse. So that's why she's not credible. I mean, that's just one of the many, many, many reasons why she's not credible. I think some of the other reasons why she's not credible go into how her lawsuit was funded and the fact that the law in New York was changed specifically to allow her to bring this lawsuit. But before we get into all that fun stuff, there's just one more video I need to play for you of E. Jean Carroll to describe just how much of a kook she is. Now, many of you probably have seen this video. This is not a new video, but I think it's relevant to play. Look at this.
I think most people think of as a, I mean, it is a violent assault. It is not.
I think most people think of as being sexy.
Let's take a short break.
Think of the fantasies.
We're going to take a quick break. If you can stick around, we'll talk more on the other side.
You're fascinating to talk to.
Okay, that clip just never gets old. I mean, this, I think, is probably the most cringeworthy video of E. Jean Carroll on the internet. And Anderson Cooper is just, you can see it in his face and in his tone of voice, his voice inflection, how uncomfortable he really is. But how did these lawsuits come about? How was E. Jean Carroll able to sue Donald Trump even after the statute of limitations in New York had expired? Well, here is E. Jean Carroll talking about Reid Hoffman, who is a Democrat mega donor who paid her or donated to her $250,000 to file a lawsuit against Donald Trump. And she actually lied about this under oath. Listen to this.
About a big Democratic donor funding part of this case. Was there a reason it wasn't disclosed? And did you view this as political in any way?
No, I just completely forgot that he even existed.
In your deposition?
Yes, in my deposition.
Wow, how incredible. How incredibly advantageous of E. Jean Carroll. She just completely, wow, she forgot. She forgot that her lawsuit was funded by a Democrat mega donor, Reid Hoffman, who paid $250,000 for the lawsuit to go forward. And she just, it just slipped her mind. Well, that is completely believable. And when deposed, she made no mention about it. And then when asked later, she just, she forgot. She forgot the guy existed. And of course, she is so incredibly credible that the New York justice system just was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. But here is the man himself, Reid Hoffman, the Democrat mega donor, talking about his reasons why he funded E. Jean Carroll's lawsuit. Listen.
A verdict was just reached in the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Donald Trump. Trump was found liable for battery and disinformation. And this is a lawsuit that you helped finance. You helped finance Jean Carroll's lawsuit. Tell us a little bit about why you did that and what do you make of this verdict now?
So, it is a standard practice. It happens a lot where there's outside funding of lawsuits. We didn't encourage the lawsuit to happen. We only got on board after she'd already filed it and was down the road. So you're not trying to create something that isn't substantive, real, that a person isn't really doing. My team looked at it and thought that it was that her voice should be heard. That because she was challenging someone who's so much more wealthy and powerful, it shouldn't be squashed, and that providing that voice for people who are otherwise would be ground down by the system or the powerful is, I think, a good thing. Obviously, especially in the case of women, and obviously, especially in the case of sexual and other torture and attack so providing that support was something that I felt very happy to do.
Wow, so he was just doing it out of the kindness of his own heart, and he did not encourage the lawsuit. He only got on board after the lawsuit happened. And, he just wants to do the right thing towards women and people who are victims and who are going against these billionaires and rich men who are just mean and they are trying to take advantage. He only had the best intentions at heart, guys. It's not because he's a Democrat mega donor who donates to political campaigns every year for his own benefit. No. It's not because of that. Don't look at it in that perspective. Look at it in the perspective of he was just simply trying to help a victim. But of course, we know that this is not true. But this brings us to the law that was enacted specifically to allow E. Jean Carroll to bring this lawsuit against Donald Trump in the first place. Now, this is the article that says how a new law allowed E. Jean Carroll to seek justice against Trump years later. And of course, this is a leftist publication, so they say seek justice. I don't think there's any justice in this case whatsoever. But it says survivors of sexual assault and advocates helped pass the Adult Survivors Act in New York that was instrumental to Carroll's civil case. Now, what is the Adult Survivors Act in New York? Well, here it is right here, New York Adult Survivors Act. The New York Adult Survivors Act temporarily, keyword, eliminates the civil statute of limitation for survivors of sexual assault who were over 18 when it occurred. This gives you the right to file a lawsuit against the perpetrator or others who facilitated the assault, regardless of how long ago it occurred. However, you must act quickly because this window closes on November 24, 2023. So this law was enacted and there's a window where it closed. So I wonder how long that window was. Okay, so this is according to Wikipedia. As you see here, the Assembly voted on this law May 23, 2022. The Senate voted April 26, 2022, and it was signed into law May 24, 2022. But if you go up here, it describes when the law actually went into effect. So it says the Adult Survivors Act, ASA, is New York state legislation enacted in May 2022, which amends state law to allow alleged victims of sexual offenses for which the statute of limitations has lapsed to file suits for a 1-year period. So 1 year is the window from November 24, 2022 to November 24, 2023. So November 24, 2022. Now, I wonder when E. Jean Carroll filed her lawsuit. Let's take a look at this. If we go to E. Jean Carroll's Wikipedia, in November 2022, Carroll filed her second suit against Trump, renewing her claim of defamation and added a claim of battery under the Adult Survivors Act. So the Adult Survivors Act specifically allowed E. Jean Carroll to file a lawsuit against Donald Trump, regardless of the statute of limitations, for 1 year. But I think it's kind of telling when she filed that suit. The act went into effect, the Adult Survivors Act went into effect November 2022. And when did Carroll file her lawsuit? November 2022. But in 2022, the ASA was enacted. The bill was sponsored by State Senator Brad Hoylman, who is a Democrat, and Assembly member Linda Rosenthal, who is also a Democrat. It unanimously passed the Senate in April 2022, passed the Assembly on a 140-3 vote in May 2022, and was signed into law by Governor Kathy Hochul. But this right here is Brad Hoylman, who sponsored the bill, and also Linda Rosenthal, who also sponsored the bill. But to wrap this all up into a nutshell, I think this tweet says it really, really well. It says, in 2022, E. Jean Carroll filed an amended lawsuit against former President Donald Trump minutes after New York's Adult Survivors Act went into effect. The New York Adult Survivors Act allows survivors of sexual assault or abuse who were under 18 or older at the time to file a lawsuit against their abuser past the state's statute of limitation. In the amended lawsuit, Carroll sues Trump for battery regarding the alleged in 1995 and defamation. But what do you guys think? Do you think that this was a legitimate lawsuit? What do you think about Reid Hoffman, this Democrat mega donor, funding E. Jean Carroll's lawsuits against Donald Trump? What do you think about the Adult Survivors Act being brought into effect literally the same day that E. Jean Carroll filed her lawsuit of sexual assault against Donald Trump? Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until then, I will see you on the next one.